Hello, and welcome to the Interchange Book 3, Unit 12 video. Today we're going to look at the infinitive phrases that we often use to explain. So, let's get started. Now, I want you to look at these different logos for these different companies, and I want you to think, what do all these successful companies have in common? So you probably recognize a lot of these different companies, a lot of these different businesses, but why? Why do you recognize all of these? And the answer is, they all are very successful in this one area, advertising. That's right, advertising. It's a big component of any successful business. So, let's take a look at some very successful advertisements. So after looking at all those different advertisements, right, what do you think can make a successful business? How do you make a successful business? Well, many factors are important, but like the examples we just saw, that to make a very successful business, some things are very important. For example, creative advertising. Creative advertising. So we're going to use this idea to talk about our grammar today. Okay, so let's look at the infinitive. Now, if we remember, an infinitive is to and a verb. To and a verb. Now, remember that the verb in the infinitive is in the base form. And the base form means there's no future, no past, and no third person s. So you do not conjugate the verb in the infinitive. It's in the base form, non-conjugated. Now, the infinitive often explains what or how in a sentence. Let's look at an example. So, if I think I want my business, and what do I want from my business, right? Now I'm going to use the infinitive to describe what is it that I want. So I'm going to think, well, like any business, I want my business to succeed. So using the infinitive, to, and the base form, succeed, I'm describing what I want. I want my business to succeed. So the infinitive often tells us what or how. So, for example, if I think, well, I want my business to succeed, but how am I going to do this? Again, I'm going to use an infinitive, and I'm going to say, well, to succeed, and then I'm going to give different ways that I can succeed. Okay? So I'm using that infinitive to describe how, or to begin a sentence on how to do something. Now, I can use a longer phrase and say, in order to succeed. Now, it's common to use this, but if you want, it's an option. I do not need to use the full phrase in order to, and then my verb. I can just use the infinitive and say to succeed. But I'm going to leave it there so we can see it. So again, the infinitive to describe how. So in order to succeed, or to succeed, I need what? Or I have what? Or I should start what? Or I want what? So again, these verbs, for example, need and have and start and want, these verbs are commonly followed by the infinitive because I need to know what. What do I need? What do I have? What do I start? And what do I want? And so I'm going to use the infinitive. And if we remember, any important part of a business is advertising. So in order to succeed, I need to advertise creatively. Or to succeed, I have to advertise creatively. Or in order to succeed, I should start to advertise creatively. Or to succeed, I want to advertise creatively. So these verbs are almost always followed by the infinitive because we need to describe what. What do I want? What do I start? What do I have? Or what do I need? So the infinitive describes what. Again, let's look at another verb that we often use with the infinitive, and that's the verb be. So if I think, in order to succeed, it is important, or it is a good idea, or it is smart, and then again, what? What am I talking about? And again, I'm going to use the infinitive. So in order to succeed, it is important to advertise creatively. Or it is a good idea to advertise creatively. Or to succeed, it is smart to advertise creatively. And again, I'm using the infinitive with the verb to be. It is important. It is a good idea, and it is smart to advertise creatively. Now, let's look at a few different examples. For example, if I want to think how, again, I use my infinitive. So, to succeed in business, or in order to succeed in business, and that's the infinitive to describe how. So I'm starting my sentence with how. To succeed in business, you need, or it's important, to advertise. And that's describing what? Again, there's my verb need, which I often use with the infinitive, and there's my verb to be, which I also use with the infinitive. So in order to succeed in business, you need to advertise. Or to succeed in business, it's important to advertise. So again, using the infinitive to describe how and what. Now, let's look at another example for how. For example, when I used the infinitive to describe how, I can also use the word for to describe how. But for is a little bit special because I need to talk about specifically what. So for example, for a business. For a business, what? And then I'm going to use the infinitive to describe what. So for a business to succeed, and again, it has, or it's a good idea, and the infinitive. It has to advertise. It's a good idea to advertise. And again, there's that verb, have, and I use that often to describe with the infinitive what? It has to advertise. Or it's a good idea. For example, there's my verb to be, which I often use with the infinitive. Now, again, just like when I used to describe how, I can use for to describe how, and I can use a longer phrase. I can say, in order for a business to succeed, or I can choose to not use it and just say for a business to succeed. So both are okay. So this was to explain the different ways that we use the infinitive, not only to talk about how we do something, but to talk about specifically what we are talking about. So it's important to know which verbs we use with the infinitive and in what types of situations we use the infinitive. So I hope this was helpful, And good luck with the rest of your grammar. Bye.